Tony Jones here, the big man himself, coming to you from the XUC broadcast position. This is Total Elimination. Let's see what Sergeant Stryker has to say about this matchup.
So, you're going to lock me in a cage with 5 other guys and tell me there's a belt on the line? I don't know if you people know this. Soldiers are trained to survive.
True.
And by the end of this night, there's going to be a new X Factor in this federation.
A confident Sergeant Stryker ready to contend for that coveted title inside of this steel structure. I would not want to be that ref tonight. He's going to have his work cut out for him. Psycho Nix and the aforementioned Sergeant Stryker starting it off, locking it up. The Sergeant bringing Psycho Nix right into the side of that steel cage. Very quickly, Nix getting the upper hand and attempting to choke him out in the corner. Look at the faces of the people in the audience. They don't know how to take this matchup inside the steel structure tonight on XUC. That was hard. Pinfall. 2 count only. Somehow Sergeant Stryker managing to kick out from that very direct DDT in the center of that steel structure. Kicks, punches. Psycho Nix in pain now, right across the midsection. Another one for good measure. And a big right hand. Sergeant Stryker working that rib area. Elbow to the back of the neck. That'll knock you out. Pinfall. Uh-oh. The ref's in trouble. Like I mentioned earlier, I would not want to be that referee locked with these men like caged animals.
This guy's won't work.
Sergeant Stryker, he's not happy. Looks like he was able to get a thumb to the eye, Psycho Nix, onto Sergeant Stryker, and bringing him into the other corner and the next corner for good measure. Right to the jaw. He connected. 2 count only. Sergeant Stryker kicking out at the very last second. It's time for another contender. Who's up next? Who's going to join these men in this steel structure? Here comes Blaze Brown with a direct kick right away to the midsection of Psycho Nix, just working him over. Sergeant Stryker worked over that rib area earlier. Blaze Brown getting in on the action. Psycho Nix with a big right hand as these men work into that 6th corner, and he's just choking him out there. Stretching him right up onto that structure. Oh, just working over that midsection, working over the ribs with those hard elbows. Sergeant Stryker getting in on the action with a huge clothesline. Psycho Nix able to get some momentum from that movement. Psycho Nix, he is the top contender at this moment now, as the other 2 folks in the matchup are barely making it to his feet, but a good punch to the nether regions will help, and a DDT from Blaze Brown. I think we're going to see a pinfall here. This could be it. 2 count only. Blaze Brown hooking the leg. Sergeant Stryker getting in there for a 2 count. This is complete madness here at XUC. Total elimination. Hard right to the gut of Sergeant Stryker. Blaze Brown now with a head of steam. Oh. Again, right to that lower rib area. That'll knock the wind out of you. That'll send you reeling. Sergeant Stryker taunting the ref. Somehow a 2 count only. Sergeant Stryker hooking the leg on Psycho Nix now. He just wants to pin anyone. He wants to come out on top before there's another competitor in the matchup. Just going for pinfall after pinfall. once again unhappy with that call of a 2 count as he lays more right hands on Psycho Nix. Blaze Brown may be locked out. Somehow, a 2 count only again. Psycho Nix just getting his shoulder up at the very last second. It's time for another competitor. Who are we going to see join these other 3 men in that steel structure? 4 men now. And here comes Havoc, the convicted felon, going straight for that lower back area of Sergeant Stryker, and some strikes on Blaze Brown for good measure. Looks like he's sizing up Psycho Nix. Blaze Brown getting in on the action there in the corner with Havoc. It's hard to call this action. 4 men in this steel structure, a sea of humanity, no alliances yet. It is so far every man for himself as you see Havoc working over Sergeant Stryker. A huge DDT right to the plywood area of that structure. I'm kicking the nuts for Sergeant Stryker. A very brief pinfall. Oh, Sergeant Stryker, he went down hard after that kick from Havoc to his personal area, his nether regions, and now we see a little bit of an alliance forming here. It looks like all 3 of these men are going to try to work over Sergeant Stryker. Nix not messing around now. Gloves are off. He throws those gloves down, and he is eyeing Sergeant Stryker now as Psycho Nix and Havoc working together. This is what you're going to do in this kind of a matchup. Psycho Nix off the side of that steel cage. Smart move from Sergeant Stryker. And we have a 3 count. The convicted felon, Havoc, has been eliminated. That alliance did not work out for those 2 men. Working over the midsection of Psycho Nix now, bouncing him off that steel structure, that razor sharp steel structure. It's time for another competitor to be locked into that steel structure. Who will make their way down? It's the man himself, Lowlife. We have Sergeant Stryker, Psycho Nix, Lowlife still in the ring, Blaze Brown still in the mix. It looks like he had some brass knuckles wrapped up, and he went directly for Sergeant Stryker. Of course, Havoc has been eliminated. It's down to these 4 men now. It looks like he took a brick. That was a brick that Lowlife had. Not only hitting him in the back of the head, but grinding it into his face. Some disrespect to Lowlife from Psycho Nix, the referee, trying to keep some semblance of order. Psycho Nix, he wants that title bad. He wants that gold around his waist, that coveted title here for XUC. Hard right to Lowlife. Now he's locking up with Sergeant Stryker, bringing him directly down to the mat. And he takes Lowlife down directly to the mat. Time for another competitor now. How are we going to have any more humanity in this steel structure? Mr. X Jr. making his way to the ring. A 2 count there. Sergeant Stryker over Lowlife. Mr. X Jr. now getting that brick, taking it directly to the forehead of Lowlife, and 1 to the gut for good measure. A quick pinfall here. 2 count only, and the ref just being disrespected, thrown into the corner. A big kick to the back of Mr. X Jr. More kicks for good measure. Bouncing him off that steel cage. Sergeant Stryker just may be the top contender in this matchup, and he's been in it since the very beginning. He and Psycho Nix started things off as he hits those hard rights across Mr. X Jr. Mr. X Jr. went down hard to the center of that ring, trying to get to his feet, trying to get some rights and lefts in there, taking Sergeant Stryker right to the side of that fencing. A quick roll-up. A 3 count. Can you believe it? with the quickness. A 1-2-3 Sergeant Stryker over Mr. X Jr. My pick has won. His hand being held high, even though he was not victorious, Mr. X Jr. presenting that belt to Sergeant Stryker. And a show of respect to the original Mr. X as these two men in the middle of this structure show what territory style wrestling is and was all about. Former enemies now together. What a matchup. Let's hear from Sergeant Stryker.
After the dust cleared, the smoke settled. Just like the great country we live in, the great country I defend, Sergeant Stryker came out on top and stood tall. I am now the X Factor of the XUC.
What a matchup. It's Extreme Underground Club.